Shalom, giving all praise to Yahweh Shemel Shai Bashem Kakodash. Excuse me. Shalom to the hopeful elect out there. Just had to sneeze. Anyway, I'm watching this video put up by GMS Vegas Sit Down 144K. Head elder out of Vegas, Las Vegas. And the name of the video responds to Pastor Jamal Bryant's heretic, ridiculous statement concerning Yahweh Shai, or who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, Jesus the Christ. I picked up a statement now. He said that 85% of his life was not dedicated to the Heavenly Father, but to his natural father. He said natural father. So he just said in that statement, I'm gonna let you hear it, that was his natural father. If somebody's your natural father, that means that's your biological father. He didn't say adopted father Joseph. He said natural father. And that went over the church's head. First of all, his mission was set up to do what he had to do in the last 3 years of his life. He went out to do the Father's will. And when he was 12 years old, when he turned 12, which was on the Passover, and he got lost, and his parents was looking for him. And when he found him, that's what is that? Luke 2, verse 42, around there. They said, "Where are you?" He said, "Don't you know I must be about my Father's business?" And the reason why he said that is because you become a man when you're 12 years old. That's why he made that statement. You become a man when you're 12 years old. That's why it says, and when he was 12 years old. It's not when you're 20 years old, you become a man. It's when you're 12 years old, you become a man. But you're not obligated to do certain things until you reach a certain age in manhood, like fighting in the wars that Israel fought in. The men that were 20 years old and above fought in the war. And usually that time, at the age of 16, 17, 18, 19, Israelites had gotten with Israelite women and had children. So when the men went out there to war, they a lot of them had women and children. Now it says in the law, if you have a wife and your time is to fight in war, you get a year off to be with your wife. And all the scriptures also say, if you are scared of, afraid to fight, then you don't fight. And that's also in the law. Because there's a lot of things in the law. You got guys, Israelites saying keep the law, but they don't even study the law. They don't know the law. They know maybe 3 or 4 laws, and that's it. They'll keep quoting them saying 3 or 4 words. Like the fringes. The fringes is a law to remind you to keep the law. Okay? You got guys with fringes that break the law while they're wearing fringes. But so well, like I said, what I caught was him saying that our Lord, they say Jesus, they're thinking about a white man, as black as they are in this particular church. Yeah, these niggas are going. The Most High gonna fry these niggas good. These niggas in the church, and these demonic, dumbass, lost souls out there in this church. When he says Jesus, they're picturing a white man in their mind. They're picturing Caesar Borgia. They're not picturing no damn black man as being the Lord. But anyway, like I said, what I caught was him saying that he did the will of his natural father. So he just slipped. Somebody should have see, like I said, the church is what you do is when you go to church, you listen to what the pastor says, you don't question anything. You just go along with what the pastor, go along to get along. Now, right there, somebody should have got up and said, I have a question. I have a question, Pastor. What do you mean by uh, Joseph being the biological father of Jesus? That means that was his actual seed. That means he was his actual father. Biological is not also natural. Something that's your natural father, your natural mother, as opposed to your adopted father and your adopted mother. So nobody got up and said nothing. They didn't even question the 85% that he wasn't doing the will of the Lord. Well, his ministry was set up by the Most High to gather the 12 or the disciples, let's say, because there was 84 in all, which churches don't even know that. Ask them about that. How many disciples did the Lord say? No, he had 12. He had 84 disciples. But you Christians don't study. You're not in a scholarly mind state. Anyway, let me let you hear it. I think I'm at the right minute mark. This is 5 minutes and 8 seconds in. Let me come back a little bit more. Hope you can hear it.
He was doing what he was not called to do. Because y'all done got quiet. For 85% of his life, he was not flowing in his God-given function.
He was supposed to flow in his God-given function when he hit 30 years old. That's why he was tempted of the devil for 40 days and 40 nights. Between those years from 12 to 30 years old, of course he honored the Most High. He came up in a family of Israelites. Both his mother and his father were Israelites, Judites to be exact, and they both came out of the lineage of David. So his calling was when he was 30 years old. He was performing miracles because his mother knew. She asked him to change the water into wine. Why did she ask him? Because she saw him perform these miracles. So she knew that he was a special child of the Most High. When the star came over, which was a ship, came over him, they knew this was a special child. The angels came to Joseph and Mary in dreams, and Joseph just said to go into Egypt. So they knew that they had a special child. They knew that they had the Messiah. Ultimately, they knew that they had the Messiah. So the gathering, part of his ministry was to gather these disciples. He wasn't going to gather no disciples when he was 13, 14 years old. The gathering of the disciples came about when he turned 30 years old. And all the disciples were in the same place. He didn't have to go to various places around the world. Because a lot of you don't even understand. A lot of y'all think that the Lord just saw this guy, Peter. Hey, Peter, you want to be a fisher of men? Come and follow me. Then they got to know each other. Then James and Andrew, really Andrew came in before his brother Peter. And they were disciples, as I said in other videos, John, James, and Andrew were disciples under John the Baptist, known the baptizer. Peter was not. So Peter came in after the fact, after those three came in. But then he became the head of the church, or the head disciple, because it was all in the spirit. He didn't just happen to go, he just happened to run into a guy named James and he said, let me see if he wants to be a disciple. No, you churches don't know that. These individuals, the 12, ultimately, the 12 that became the 12 apostles, which includes Matthias. These were prophets in the ancient world. These were the ancient prophets coming back in reincarnation. And that goes over the head of these churches because they don't believe in reincarnation, because what they teach to the congregation is what they were taught. Go to a seminary school. I call it a cemetery school, theological cemetery. They're going to teach you certain things, standard things in the scriptures. This means that means this. You ask them about reincarnation is not in the scriptures. You show them certain scriptures that clearly speak about reincarnation, and they'll say, well, that doesn't mean that. Like I said, the church system is nothing but a bunch of regurgitators. That's all they do. That's why when they roll up on Israelites, they only have so many scriptures and they run out of gas. Anytime you run into somebody from a church of Christianity, you want to mess them up, just go into the prophecies. Go into the book of Revelation. Not one of them understand the book of Revelation or any of the prophecies. Don't let them control the narrative. You control the narrative. You tell them, since the Lord is dealing with you, what does this scripture mean? What does Daniel 8 mean? You can go to a particular verse. They don't know. They don't know. What does Jeremiah 50 mean? You know, what does Jeremiah 51, Jeremiah 49? What does Obadiah mean? When did that take place? You speak about the Edomites. They say the Edomites are like vocab. The Edomites are done away with. Well, when did Isaiah 34, and I did a video on that, when did Isaiah 34 come to pass? Oh, it's a future prophecy. Okay, so guess what? Is Edomite going to be a part of that? No, then you go, what does it mean by Idumea? Don't let them control the narrative. You control the narrative. And if they have a problem with that, then tell them we ain't got nothing to talk about. You're going to answer my question. You might open it up by saying, let them ask 2 questions. Then you got questions for them, which you know they can't understand, they can't get. You can go into what colors, well, the Lord doesn't, the color doesn't matter. Well, why throughout the scriptures it mentions color? It mentions the physical appearance of what the Most High looked like in Daniel, the physical appearance of what the Lord, what you call Jesus, John saw. Well, what are you talking about? Well, the white woolly hair means he was white. Okay, so what does it mean when somebody turned white? That means they have leprosy. Go to the leprosy scriptures. So the Lord came down with a contaminating disease known as leprosy. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway, so let me let you listen to this bullshit. And IUIC learned the valuable lesson and going to them, blitzing them churches. Not one so-called Christian, black Christian, said, look, I'm going to follow the Israelites. I'm the Israelites. Not one of them. Now, you can say, well, Tahar, we do got one. Okay, let me know that you got one and give me the video, and I'll say, okay, you got one. You didn't get one of them, according to my knowledge, man. So fuck them. They're already condemned. So let's listen.
85% of his life, he is doing what his natural father wanted, but it did not line up with his divine DNA. 85% of his life, he's anointed, he's called, he's chosen.
He was called and chosen when he was 30 years old. Okay? He was called and chosen when he was 30 years old.
And he's wrong.
And I would say they don't give you the ages of the 12, ultimately the 12. Now, some of them could have been maybe older. Some of them could have been quite younger than the Lord. Some could have been like 25. So we're talking, if he started his ministry at the age of 12, where he said, I must be about my father's business, he would have ran into like Peter or Andrew, which at that time would have been 5 years younger than him. They would have been like 7 years old. So was he to call the disciples? The ministry, the first part of the ministry was to call together the disciples, dumbass. So there's no history of what he did. We know that he went to this temple. He read out the Torah when he was 12 years old. We know that he was learning of the law, and the Most High was dealing with him through the Spirit. But his calling for him to go out and put out the ministry was when he turned 30 years old, the 3-year ministry. So these churches, they're lost. So you heard him say it. Let me come back and let you listen to it again.
It did not line up with his divine DNA. He was not flowing in his God-given function. 85% of his life, he is doing what his natural father wanted, but it did not line up with his divine DNA. 85% of his life, he's anointed, he's called.
He was called when he was 30 years old. And like I said, it said, you heard it a third time, his natural father. And nobody got up, nobody left. Because these people are stupid ass people, man. They're dummies. Let's listen to a little bit more.
He's chosen and he's wrong.
So I got to hear him say some bullshit that is based off of his own conceit. Right, and the scriptures say that fools they love to air their own opinion, because that's basically what you're doing when you're not coming out of the scriptures. It says to the law and to the testimony is in Isaiah 8:20, to the law and to the testimony, to the law and to the prophets, and they speak not according to this word, is because there's no light in them. So he's speaking from his own opinion, which comes from the heart, and the heart is deceitful. Proverbs 18:2, it says, "A fool have no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself." Right? And what does that mean? We'll just go to the other translations and it'll reiterate what that means. Right? NIV, fools find no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinions. And that's all he's doing, because what he's talking about is not backed by the scriptures. So he's basically saying that Yahushua wasn't on his purpose for 85% of his life, because he didn't immediately begin his ministry, from birth. Which what logical sense does that make, that he was just gonna be born out of the womb and then immediately go and start teaching and doing miracles? Are you kidding me? He fulfilled what the law and the prophets already said. From the moment he was born, he was fulfilling the Lord's purpose, the Lord's will. All right, and I'm gonna get to the scriptures. Let me just finish reading this. This is the ESV. It says, "A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion." And you can express your opinion, but that doesn't mean that the Spirit is on you, and that doesn't mean that you're speaking the truth. So that was a fail. And those simple as Jake, and his congregation, they ate it up. They didn't once question this guy.
I did a video on Church of Berea, and I went to the commentary, and it said that pretty much not in the same words, that the Apostle Paul honored them more than the Church of Thessalonica, because they listened to what Paul had to say, and they double checked it in the scriptures. They were diligent. That's what part of being diligent is to search the scriptures. And when you search the scriptures, you got to go into the Hebrew and to the Greek. Sometimes you got to go in the maps. A lot of you guys, I might mention the Church of Thessalonica. I might say, what's the closest church to the Church of Thessalonica? You would have to say the Church of Berea. You might say, where's Corinthians? The Church of Corinthians, where is it located? Ask a Christian, they don't know. Some of them might get it, but most of them don't. A lot of Israelites might not even get it because they'll read certain geographical areas in the scriptures and they don't picture where it's located in, in their mind, in their mind's eye, because they don't say, okay, let me go to a map. Let me put in the Church of Corinth and then put in maps and we'll show you where it's at. Let me open the map up, make it wider, and what churches are next to it. Because the Apostle Paul went to a cluster of churches. They were all pretty much in close proximity to each other. Like I said, you people, you churches are a complete joke. A complete joke. If you don't go into the Hebrew and the Greek, if you don't go into the history, if you don't know how to take certain parts of ancient history and filter it through the scriptures, then you really don't know the scriptures. And when you go into the scriptures, you have to have a mindset like a scholar. A scholar is just somebody that's being schooled. That's all it means. You could be in high school and be a scholar. You can be in college and get a scholarship, right? You could be what's the word? A prodigy at a high school. You're 13 years old. You can really play the piano. Your music teacher says this kid is special. Let's give him a scholarship to this music school. A scholarship. Who gets scholarships? Scholars, people that study. You could be in the sixth grade and be called a scholar. You could be an undergraduate or overgraduate, and whatever the term is, postgraduate work. So come on.
If there was any of the Lord's sheep in there that heard that, they would immediately got up and walked out. Yahweh Shai said, my sheep, they hear not the voice of strangers, but will flee from them. So for 85% of the Lord's life, because he learned to be a carpenter under Joseph, so he had an occupation. The Bible doesn't get specific into his personal life as when he was a child outside of the account of Luke, when it talks about when he, was weaned and he grew, as a child, and there was moments when he showed that he actually had the wisdom, the spirit was on him. All right, and the prophecy, when you read Isaiah 11th chapter, it prophesied that he would be a quickened spirit. There's Isaiah 11:1. It says, "And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots." We're talking about the son of David, all right, which is Yahweh Shai. "And the spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding." And we're going to show you that that spirit rested upon him even from birth. He was a child and he had the spirit of wisdom and understanding, even to the point where the doctors in the law in the temple, when they was hearing him ask questions, they were marveling at how wise he was for such a young man. We're gonna get that account, but let's finish this. It says, "The spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord, and shall make him of quick understanding."
Yeah, he was made of quick understanding when he was a child, and he did go out. He left his parents. He said, "Look, I'm no longer under my parents. I'm going to do the ministry." But it wasn't set for him to do the ministry because the disciples had to be of a certain age. They had to be ready too. So this clown is saying in church is ludicrous.
The fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor and reprove with equity for the meek.
Right. Let me play that again. Let me play that again.
And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither in the fear of the Lord, and shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked.
So that meant he didn't get emotional. He's not going to judge, based on what he saw, what he heard. He's not going to get emotional about it. He's going to deal with the law. Does somebody doing something, does that filter into the scriptures? So you have this controversy with the grape doctrine, and there's certain Israel One Westers that said that we're going off. That's what they initially said, we're going off. But we didn't get it. They got emotional. We didn't get emotional. We show you the scriptures. There was a video that was put up between one-on-one with what's this guy, Sarnetta and Priest Danyala. So Sarnetta was hitting the right scriptures, and Priest Danyala was saying that, and not so many words, you're going off on that. That's the wrong way. There's certain guys that teach that, but they're going off. But like I said, he didn't go into the Hebrew. He didn't say, well, let's examine the scriptures. Let's get into the root of the scripture. Let's get into the root of those words. Let's pull out some words. So you can't understand the scriptures if you don't go into the root of these particular words, whether it's in the New Testament, the Greek, the Old Testament, the Hebrew, and or the Sirach or the Aramaic, which was Daniel was written in Aramaic. That was during the time of the Babylonian captivity. So the king of Babylon, that was an extension of the Assyrian Empire. The king of Babylon, or the kings of Babylon, were Assyrians. They were not Cushites. That's another thing that was taught at One West elders, the seven, that the kings of the Babylonian Empire were Cushite. They were not Cushite. They were Assyrians. When you go to Daniel chapter 7, it spoke about a lion having eagle's wings and rising itself up on two hind legs or feet, paws or whatever. So, well, that's the same lion. It just became elevated. So the rulership of the Babylonian Empire was the same people as the Assyrians. They were Assyrians. Like I said, a lot of you guys are regurgitators. A lot of you guys that call yourself Israelites, especially the ones that came after the One Western, when we came on YouTube, a lot of you guys picked and chose between different camps. I like what he's saying in GMS. I like what he's saying in IUIC. I like what he's saying in this camp or that camp, and you kind of putting together your own your own how can I say this? Your own way of teaching the word. Give you a good example. Sakari, there's certain things that we don't go with as far as Sakari. Sakari, the head of Sakari came up under us. He'll tell you that the people of Sakari will tell you that the Sabbath is based upon the new moon. Where do you think they got it from? They got it from us. What they did was, or Al-Azhar did, Priest Al-Azhar, whatever his title is at this time, he heard it and he studied it. He said, well, let me go into it. And he said, he didn't say, well, I'm going to go into it. I'm going to go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And it felt, no, it sounded like it made sense. But he said, but there's other camps saying Friday, sundown, Saturday, sundown. So what he did was go into the scriptures, into the history, and say, yeah, it makes sense. So he went with that. Now, there's certain other thing like the grape doctrine they don't go with. But if you notice the grape doctrine, like going back to Priest Daniela, he didn't tell Sarnetta, well, let's go into this Hebrew word. Let's look at this Hebrew word right there and see what it means. Let's go to the root of that word. They didn't do that. And this is what makes us different from the churches out there, because people that go to the churches, except if you're a trained scholar, like I always go into the commentary, and most of the commentary, they'll go in the actual, matter of fact, I'm gonna do that if it's up. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna close on this. Okay, this is Acts 17:11. Let's see if there's any, okay, Acts is in the New Testament, right? So you see here, expositors Greek Testament. So they're giving you the Greek words. They're giving you the Greek words. You know what I'm gonna do? Let me do this. Let me take this, and I'm gonna go to the blue letter. Let's see what comes up. Okay, nothing comes up. Let me do it this way. Okay, let me go to Acts. Bear with me for a minute. I'm just trying to prove a point. Bear with me for a minute. Okay, let me do it this way. Let me do this. It really doesn't come up. But my point was, my point was that you got to go into the Greek. That was the point that I was trying to make. Let me come over here. Here it is again. You got the Greek, because it's in the New Testament. Benson commentary, you got the Greek. See, once you come into calling yourself being a teacher in this thing, you got emotions got to go out the window. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna say shalom.